Nick, take it
Hey
over, bud.
guys, this is this is Nick from Milburn. Bringing you I think this is our fourth version of the Seton Hall Pirate pregame show. We face the Butler Bulldogs tonight at Hinkle, and joining me is Chris Jones. Chris, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing great. Excited to see you. How's it going?
Good. We have Nick Morgan, Seton Hall women's basketball aficionado, bar none. Nick, what's up, my guy?
Not too much, except for the doubleheader tonight. How are you doing?
Good. And then we have my great friend, Paul. Paul does great scouting reports. Paul, how you doing tonight?
Good to see you, Nick. Good to see everybody.
So Bobby is the rock, but Bobby is doing some other things. So he asked me just to start this out, and I'm honored and flattered to do so. So let's just go around a little bit and, thoughts on tonight's game. Who wants to go first?
Well,
Paul, anything?
I guess I could go. I wrote some notes up about the Butler Bulldogs that we can use to start off. For Butler, it has really been a tale of two seasons. Butler on December 4th was 7-1. Had a win over SMU out of the ACC. They had a win over number 25 Mississippi State out of the SEC. And then they had this strange loss to Austin Peay. They went down to Houston, played in this tournament, and they haven't won since. 9 straight losses. Now they've lost to number 9 Marquette, number 11 UConn, number 17 Houston, number 20 Wisconsin, and they lost to St. John's, Creighton, and Villanova. So they've been playing the top half of the Big East, and they've been playing a pretty tough schedule.
Not to interrupt you, my friend, but I think they have the 17th toughest schedule in the nation right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that doesn't explain the loss to North Dakota State. And it also doesn't explain going up to the dunk. No, I'm sorry, the Amica Pavilion and getting beat by Providence by 20 points.
I call it the dunk too.
It'll always be the dunk to me.
It'll all be the dunk.
So they've got to go down to they're home. They're playing a team that has struggled in our Pirates, and I've got to believe they're going to be fired up completely for the win.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at them, I kind of see a mirror image of ourselves, but they turn the ball over a ton. I mean, they're 352nd in turnovers. I mean, I say, and we had talked about this before about playing up tempo. We got to play up tempo with this team. We got to try to press. We got to try to rattle them. Like when I was talking to you the other day, Paul, they don't have a true point guard. Am I right?
No, they don't. They've had 2 guys that have tried to play the point. One has the name of Finley Bizjack. Now that is a great basketball name, Finley Bizjack. He plays 20 minutes a game. They've got Colby King. He plays the other half of the games, but they run their offense through Jamel Telford, who's essentially playing point forward. He's leading the team in assists, right, as a big man, which is pretty strange. So they don't really have a point guard. I don't know who brings the ball up for them. They don't have a ton of height. It very well may be that the smaller lineup might be able to match up defensively against Butler, the smaller lineup that Seton Hall has been using. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see us press all over the floor, put all kinds of pressure on their ball handlers. And I think that Butler will struggle. The other thing you got to remember is that they've got Patrick McCaffrey, who's the graduate son of the coach at Iowa. What is it, Nick McCaffrey? What is
Fran McCaffrey?
Fran McCaffrey, and it's interesting. His Fran McCaffrey's youngest son is going to play at Butler next year,
and his other son's an assistant coach.
Yeah, so that's probably a lot of what's going on over there.
So I guess Junior offered more NIL money than Daddy.
Very possible.
I mean, this is the game. this is a game, and thank you for your analysis. It's in depth and astute as always. But this is a game that we should win. This game. They don't scare me at all. I don't know if you guys have. I've been to Hinkle. It's okay. It's very nice. You have to go once in your life. They have Nicole Gizzy loves that little bulldog they have. Blue has his own little office. It's great. It's totally great. They filmed Hoosiers there. But they're not that loud. I went to Kansas a few years ago. Kansas is a million times louder, a million times more intimidating. I think we have to worry about Seton Hall Pirate basketball. And I think we're starting to get an identity. And I know some people dread this, but I don't think we have any other choice. I like Dylan at the point. And then I like Chauncey and Coleman and Paul, and you and I have discussed this on the court at the same time. They were clicking in the first half last game. They need to take it to the next level and keep it up. I think Prince is coming into his own. He's the wild card. He's playing really well, and we need to get that from him. Maybe they could have him go on Telfor. And then we have that three-headed monster on center. Just keep rotating him out. Let him play hack-a-shack and get in some foul troubles and create some things. And, Gus coming off the bench brings a lot of enthusiasm. So we just have to play Seton Hall Pirate basketball. Again, I think Shaw's a really good coach. I think this team's getting better. I think he's getting every ounce of talent out of this squad. For Seton Hall, Chris, what do you think about our chances tonight?
So I think you said it best. Seton Hall, this is a game they should win. When you just look about the history between Seton Hall and Butler, Seton Hall has won the last 6 matchups between the Butler Bulldogs and the Seton Hall Pirates. So, again, if there's a way that you want to get back into Big East play, you want to get your second win in the Big East and try to get yourselves back up in the rankings, this is the game to do it. And I think how you said putting Dylan Adewusu at point, that's where he should be. That's where he should be. But this is also a player who we've seen have his highs and he has his lows. I remember last game he went over 7 from the field or from 3-point until he got that first 3-point on his 8th shot. So he's a player who I can see him at point. It just really comes down to, I think, Isaiah and Chauncey, how they can play together, because those two have really been the scoring threats that we've had for the Pirates all season long. And this is also a team that doesn't score too often. Like, they don't score in your higher 75-plus, 80-plus. Like, they are a lower-scoring team because of how good their defense is. So that's what I think it's going to come down to, is how good Seton Hall's defense plays against a Butler team who averages, I believe it's like 71 points a game. If you can hold Butler to less than 70 points, Seton Hall will have a very good chance today.
Yeah, and I think we need to score a lot of points in transition. And like Paul said, go out and be aggressive defensively. Nick, any thoughts on the men's game?
Yeah, so kind of doubling down what you guys said, I think we need Coleman and Jenkins to really feed off of each other. Coleman has 4 20-plus point games in his last 5 games. And that one game that he doesn't have 20 points or more, he had 19. So he's been very consistent. For Jenkins, he had 17 last game and then 4 before that. And then 11, and then 9 and 14. So he's really back and forth. So we need some consistency out of him. Hopefully the rhythm between him and Coleman, like we were all talking about already, is really beneficial. But I think something that's really important tonight for the win and is the momentum moving forward. Seton Hall on campus is having a huge watch party tonight for the men's and the women's game. And they're trying to get a lot of students out. They want a lot of people to be in the UC event room. They're doing raffles, giveaways, things like that. All of these students are coming together with one identity and, cheering on the Pirates. And I know there's been an issue a little bit with student fans at the game so far this year. If we can get a nice win tonight with all of these fans and all these students in the event room together celebrating at this watch party, I think that really pushes and urges people to continue to go to games, as we close out January, as we go into February. So I think that excitement from the students is huge, and a win tonight does a lot more than just add a win to the win column for us, but it gets the energy for the students back, and hopefully have a better fan engagement and a better student section moving forward after tonight. So I think the win is big, but I think there's a lot more on the line than just a win or a loss. I think it really comes down to the students and their engagement the rest of the year as well.
Well, speaking about the students and their engagement, our next game, if they don't come to the next home game Saturday against our favorite coach Rick Pitino and the St. John's Redmen or whatever they are, the Johnnies, they're never going to come. And I think, let me just ask you this. How do you think the crowd for Chris and Nick, how do you think the crowd is going to be at the St. John's game on the student end? And what kind of reception do you think Kadari Richmond is going to get from his former fans?
Yeah, that's where all the students are going to come for. Like, that's what they're coming for. Let's be honest.
Right.
They're coming to see Kadari Richmond play back at the Prudential Center. And you would hope as a student and as a Pirate fan, you would hope to see the students show out, because if they do, you already know they're going to make their voices heard. They're going to be loud. They're going to be rowdy. They're going to be there. They're going to be in the Prudential, and they're going to make sure it's rocking. But again, looking at these last few years and just the student, we'll say attendance hasn't always been up to the standard that some guys would hope. But that's why I think with the St. John's game, if one, you're going to watch Kadari Richmond back in the Prudential Center, and two, if you want to get back into Big East play, we've seen the impact that the student section and also just fans in general can have on this team and how good they play. They feed off of the fans' energy. So for a game like this against St. John's, when you get a good number, and if there will be a good number, and when there will be a good number of students and fans there, the team is going to feed off of it, and they are going to be loud.
I've been going to games forever, and I can't remember. I think it started with, Timmy Ice and the Bluebeard Army, and that's a little bit before your time with the student section. But last year in particular, the synergy between the students and the players was at a whole new level. I mean, you could tell there was a connection there, and, it was just something special. Nick, what do you think about it?
I definitely don't think Kadari's going to be received well. I think we're going to see a lot of the last year's kind of crowd of fans coming back and students coming back. I don't know how many freshmen are coming out. It is also early into the semester. Classes started today. So I don't know how students are going to be attendance-wise. I'm hoping a lot of the upperclassmen who were here last year who saw Kadari's breakout performance go out and show out. And I think Chris said it perfectly. I think, they're going to make their voices heard, and they're going to really get to him. His point total, or his single game point high, is 18 on the year. He looks nothing like the Kadari Richmond we saw last year. Last year, Dylan Adewustu really woke up for us against St. John's, which is his former team, his alma mater. So maybe this is a turning point for Kadari Richmond. Either way, I think he wants to show up. And I think the fans are really going to try to get in his head so they prevent that. I'm in the boat where hopefully everyone that can show up is there, because I think it is a very important game. But, we'll have to see. And, really pulling for a lot of students. I do not think Kadari Richmond will be taken in very well.
Okay. Do you think Patino who will get it a bigger cheers? I don't want to say boos, but who will, maybe the Bronx cheer, the Raspberries or whatever. But what kind of reception do you think Mr. Patino will get? Because, at the end of the day, Kadari took the money. You can't blame him. But, Patino, I don't want to say the word sleazy, but maybe that's a good word to say. And then I don't know if you guys have been reading, he threw Kadari under the bus. He's like, well, he's been playing overweight. Coach, you had him all summer. Now you're noticing that he's overweight and slow. I said at the time that St. John's and Patino in particular was not a good fit for him just because of Patino's style. Kadari likes to, stay more deliberate and, eat up some shot clock, drive the lane, distribute or whatever. Whereas Patino's just like press and run and 3-point shots. And that's not Kadari's game. And his stats are going down for it. Paul, what do you think about, Kadari coming back and Patino and the Johnnies on Saturday?
Well, first, I think that Kadari has been doing a lot of contributing for St. John's. I know his numbers are down. I know that his stats aren't there. But I talked to a lot of fans of St. John's, and he still does that thing that he did for us last year. He's in the middle of everything. He may have 2 steals, 4 rebounds, and 8 points, but somehow that contribution was key for St. John's winning games. He's not as talented as the other players on St. John's. He can't play the tempo. Nick, you're absolutely right. Patino wants to run up and down the floor. Kadari is not fast enough to play that game. But I think that he will be extremely fired up for this game. From what we remember last year, he's not the guy that we want to get pissed off. I don't want him to suddenly decide he's got something to prove because he could go for 30 on Saturday. As far as the fans are concerned, I'm sure that they'll be on his case. I'm sure they'll be on Pitino's case. Rick Pitino, I'm usually not allowed to say what I think of him on a family program like this one. Anybody who has a relationship with the most famous madam in Cincinnati, and that's part of his. I'm not making that up. That's
no, I know you're not. That's the sad part.
That's the truth. He left Louisville because, among other things, he was procuring prostitutes for recruits.
Wasn't there also something, not to get into his personal life, but something with his wife and someone else and a payoff? And
his assistant coach's wife and he were having.
Oh my God.
I'll have to look up all the details. I don't want to slander a man without having the facts in front of me, right? It's not slander if you tell the truth.
Right.
But the thing about it too is that Pitino and St. John's are very good at NIL because they've been
it's the vitamin water guy. We don't have a vitamin water guy.
But he was doing it at Kentucky and Louisville all along. It just was, it
wasn't legal.
It wasn't legal. So, but I think that, as far as the game tonight is concerned, they do need to take the crowd out of the game. I think that's true whenever you go on the road in the Big East, that as quickly as you can to get the crowd out of the game and keep them sitting on their hands, it'll be important. I'd like to see an unlikely hero tonight. We all want to see Jenkins and we all want to see Isaiah Coleman. And Dylan has to produce. But it'd be nice to see an unlikely hero tonight, somebody like Prince or somebody like even the Bus. They're not very big down low, Butler.
No.
And it would be nice if one of the three heads gets hot and stays in the game for longer than 14 minutes. Finally, Coach Nick, I have to disagree with you. I know you want to put Dylan at the point. I just don't know that he's a good enough ball handler. To bring the ball up. We've seen him struggle to handle the ball in key situations. So I can understand that.
The problem I have is I just want to see his senior. He would, in a perfect world, he would not be my starting point guard. But I like him on the court with his senior leadership, and I want Jenkins on there, and I want Coleman on there. And I don't think Dual has been doing much, at the point at all. So it would be, maybe start Dylan and then do a rotation with Felton and Middleton as your first two in. But I kind of, right. He's steady. When he doesn't make too many mistakes, he's fine. He's not going to do a lot of creating. He does add some, upperclassman stability. But in a perfect world, no, of course he wouldn't be my starting point guard. But it's all about, but then again, like you said, they don't have a point guard either.
No, they don't. Now we have a question from a viewer.
Yeah.
Asking, does anyone know how much Kadari Richmond's getting paid in NIL?
That's a question for my good friend Jeff from Point Pleasant. The rumors have been out there. I mean, no one knows for sure, but it's more than Seton Hall offered him, correct?
It's got to be the case.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I don't think that that's published yet, although someday it very well might be.
Let me, tonight we have two games, and it's a doubleheader, and the women have a big game, and I know that Nick is right on top of it. And Nick, you want to talk about the women's game tonight? And my favorite player, I'm the president of the Faith fan club. I have faith in faith.
There we go. Yeah. So we'll start off. We'll keep it back to the 2024 Pirates theme here. We were talking about Kadari Richmond, Dylan Adewusu, obviously. I want to talk about Jaden Bediako for a second.
Okay.
We love Jaden Bediako. His younger sister is actually on this Marquette Golden Eagles team. She doesn't get a whole lot of playing time, but she is a sophomore. She averages 2.5 points a game, 2.9 points a game at home, and that's in 10 games. out there for the Golden Eagles. So I think that it's just a fun storyline to watch tonight. Not necessarily she's not going to be like the star of the show, but just a nice little shout out to Jaden Bediako and his family. A nice little callback to our champion from last year and our former Seton Hall Pirate. This is going to be a tough game for the Pirates. They've had a lot of very close games in their last two outings. And they have a tough schedule coming up to round out January, or at least right after this is UConn on January 19th, which is this upcoming Sunday. So a devastating loss against Creighton in their last contest, 71-68. That was Marquette that lost 71-68 at Creighton in their last game. But for Seton Hall, we lost 72-64 against Creighton. And at one point, we were down by 17. We cut that deficit to 2 points. It was a game that we looked like we were in until late into the fourth quarter. We kind of let that slip away from us here. But for Seton Hall, these last three games have been very close contests. The shooting from distance hasn't been great. We had a 15% three-point percentage last game as a team collectively. 3 players each made 1 3-pointer, which is very unlike this program, at least when you're talking about Jada Eads, Yaya Lopes. Even Lawson's been draining a couple in most of these games here. So it's really going to come down to, our big 3 that we're expecting that we've seen all season, Faith Massonis, Jada Eads, and Ayanna Lopes. Faith on the road has 18.3 points on average so far this year with 4.3 boards and 2.3 assists. She shoots just above 45% from the field and over 42% from three-point distance. So it's going to be nice to see her hopefully get back out there tonight. I know she really wasn't shooting from beyond the arc last game, so maybe she gets some more opportunities because this is such a big matchup. And this is a team that started 4-0 in Big East Conference play for the first time ever in program history. And we had a tough loss in our most recent game against Creighton. Now we're facing Marquette, who is the favorite, and then we go on to UConn. So it's 3 really tough games in a row. You started 4-0. You want to win ideally one of these 3 games, and I think Marquette is really what you're penciling up to be right now. Is you want to steal the win from the Golden Eagles.
So Nick, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if Lunardi does the bracketology for the women's side, but I've just taken a quick look at it, and he has Seton Hall as 7th on the list of the teams that are out. So not in the first 4 out, but in the next 4 out, he's got them listed 7th, which is very much into conversation.
Yep.
What do you think in terms of the next 4 or 5 weeks? The Pirates are going to need to do to get that recognition and get back onto that last 4 in or even before that?
Well, I think it is early, but I think it does definitely come down to this game tonight. I think this is not a must-win game, but I think if we win this game, it definitely brings us closer to the conversation. And Chris, feel free to jump in if you have anything as well. If I'm not hitting anything here, but I think a win tonight would be very big for that conversation. Also, we don't know the future of Savannah Catalan. We don't know if she's coming back or not. I think this is a much different program for the better with Savannah in and, being a starter and having her and Eads. Although it raises a question, if Savannah Catalan's been healthy all this time, does Jada Eads get that opportunity to grow into the player that she's become? We don't know. That's a whole bunch of what ifs. But if Catalan can come back, and we do see her back on the court with Massonis, Eads, and Yaya Lopes, this is a program that really we've been in the conversation for all of these games, all these Big East games. We've had a shot at. We've come from behind. We've won in overtime. We've won at the buzzer. So we can turn things around very quickly, and I don't think we're out of any game mathematically or statistically before it starts or before it ends. I think we're right up in it until that clock runs out. But I think a win against Marquette tonight is big. Some big wins on the road. Seton Hall's 3-0 on the road in Big East play, or at least 3-0 on the season under Coach Brazella right now. To continue to win on the road, they have the support at home from the students and the fans. They get there, they show up, they get into the heads, like what we're doing in the next match. Really help them win some unpredictable games like that. The student sections. But I think the win tonight against Marquette is huge, and that definitely brings us up and it climbs the ladder for this program.
Nick, before we get to Chris, let me just ask you a quick question. You're in a band, correct?
Yes.
What instrument do you play?
I play the mellophone.
I don't know what that is, but I'm sure you're very good at it. Years ago at Walsh, we had a famous cymbals player, and he was called the masked cymbals player, obviously, because WWE gimmick wore a mask. And it was like all over at the heyday of Walsh, all over ESPN and such. Chris, your thoughts on the women's and the men's tonight? What do you think?
Yeah, so for the women's at least, this has been a team that this season I've been heavily involved with. I mean, I was at Villanova for that buzzer beater. I was there with WSOU calling that game. So watching Faith doing what she's doing, watching the last game at Creighton, this women's team has so much potential than what they're already showing. I think Nick hit it pretty spot on with almost everything. And when you look at this team, Nick mentioned without Savannah Catalan, how this team is playing is miraculous. Again, Savannah Catalan going into the season was supposed to be the number one player. She was going to be the star that leads this team to success. The NCAA tournament appearances, she was supposed to be that player, and she was at the beginning of the season. But now with that unfortunate injury, Jada Eads has fully stepped into a role that not many people thought. We all knew coming in as a freshman that she was talented. There's things that she can do pretty much on every aspect of the court, whether it's shooting from three, driving into the paint, drawing a foul, taking a bit of a page out of Savannah Catalan's book. She's iconically known for doing things like that. This is a team that overall, every single piece of it works as a unit. They all work in their own cohesive way. Yaya Lopes, she can play down in the paint, while also she can shoot from three if she wants to. But then you look at some other players, again, Jada Eads, Faith Masonis, all around, overall, she can do everything. And then even Amari Wright. Amari Wright doesn't get a lot of the recognition that she should be getting because she isn't much of a scorer. She's the type of player to pass the ball around, create some ball movement, open up some lanes for some other players. She doesn't get the recognition because she doesn't score, but she gets a lot of these plays going for the Pirates. So looking towards for this game, again, this is a big one. If you want to stay on top or near the top of the Big East, this is a game tonight that you should win and need to win if you want to keep in that conversation. But again, Jada Eads, she's had a career high in points. I think she's broken it 4 or 5 times in these last 5 or 6 games. It's unheard of to hear a player like a freshman of all that, don't even mind that, a freshman breaking her career high in points 4 consecutive games straight and then just did it last game. She's a player who's going to consistently, day in and day out, even when Savannah Catalan comes back. I know I don't have an exact timetable on that. I did see her at the Creighton game out of her walking boot, so she's getting there. She might be getting into physical therapy, so who knows when she'll be back. But again, Jada Eads, she's doing what she's doing on her own, and once Catalan comes back, this team will be even more special.
I love your enthusiasm. You're on WSOU?
I am.
Tell Morales to be nice to me and not hang up on me on Hallline anymore. Anyway.
Oh, anytime we see your name, Nick, we're always excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. You guys do a great job. Marconi Award winning 89.5, #1 college radio station in America. Let's get some final thoughts. Paul.
Well, before we do that, I just want to ask, has there been any discussion of Savannah Catalan getting a medical red shirt?
I'm not completely sure on that. I haven't heard anything on that.
Okay, because if she's not going to come back and she can get another semester and then come back and play with this team that's grown around while she was banged up, you're looking at a very, very interesting 2026 for that.
How many years would that make her? I know, right? Sorry. It gets crazy after a while, right?
Well,
yeah.
Well, now as far as the men's
final
game tonight, my thought is I love the small team. I love teams that press. I love teams that put pressure on guards. And when you don't have a true point guard, I think that makes it even harder for Butler. Press all over the floor. They've got to be able. We've got to be looking at 16-4 at the first TV timeout. Seton Hall, and then you play the rest of the game. I don't want that crowd at Butler going crazy, screaming and yelling. I know Nick said that there are harder places to play, but those people do get nuts when they want to.
There's not much going on in Butler, Indiana.
No, there's not. And finally, the last thing was I watched a podcast by the Indy Star talking about Butler basketball. And the consensus was that they need to play better.
Okay. An astute analysis.
I did think that I thought we could get a little bit more in-depth information. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of double down on what Paul said earlier in the show. I do like the idea of like a surprise player popping up and, really showing off for us tonight. I think that's going to be important. But also how I opened the show too. Like I want to see a good win out of this Pirates team. I think it's necessary for their mentality, their mindset, for Coach Shaw, but also for the students and the engagement moving forward. Like this is a pivotal part of the season. I think the students know that this is a game that we should win. So going into this tonight, we're expecting to see highlights. We're expecting to see the winning graphics from WSOU and from the men's basketball Instagram page and Facebook page, things like that. So we have a high expectation tonight for this team. We really need them to gel together, see Coleman and Jenkins hopefully back out there again together, and how well they're pairing up as a duo. But this is a must-win game moving forward for the men. I think, for both teams, the men and the women, both programs really need to walk away victorious tonight. But there's a lot more on the line than just a win or a loss for the men. It's going to draw out the rest of the season as well.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they both said it pretty well. I also like how Paul mentioned the press. I love when I see teams do that. I know the women's team does that a lot. They even start in like the second quarter, sometimes even the third. They put that press on early. They try to get the game going early with their defense. I want to see the men do that a little bit. Again, this is a game where you kind of have to win. If you want to stick in Big East play, you want to try to move yourself up in the rankings a little bit in those standings. This is a game where you got to put on that pressure because you're expected to win. You should win, but again, you got to, for the full 40 minutes, put the press on the other team, put it on the Bulldogs, get some pressure on them. Because, again, they're a team that can score. They can play well. But this is a Seton team. They center and they revolve around how good their defense is. So show that in this game. Press up a little bit, put some pressure on them, and you should be able to come out with the win.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we need to win both these games tonight. We will win both these games tonight. The men, behind a big effort from Isaiah Coleman, will be victorious at Hinkle. And again, I have nothing but faith in Faith, and she will step up her game, and we will win in Marquette. I think that's Al McGuire Auditorium or whatever it is. But we're going to go 2-0 tonight, and everyone's going to be happy. And, go Pirates. And let me just thank, my co-host, my colleagues here for a great job. We have Chris, we have Nick, we have Paul. Behind the scenes, Bobby. Bobby, thank you for setting up all the stuff. The coach, Tom Eccles, for having this idea. And for our producer, the one and only, often imitated, never duplicated, the great Nicole Gizzi. Good night, everyone. Take care and go Pirates.